Hey, I'm here with my beautiful Amy.
Oh, hello, beautiful Karen.
Poor Amy. Amy is in the dark. She can't see anything. She's doing this blind, aren't you, Amy?
Yeah.
But you don't seem to
Yeah.
mind coming on my little hangouts with this. You somehow enjoy it, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Just want to say that we're going to be looking at some islands today because not only is there the Isle of Wight, the Isle of Man, there's Jersey, Guernsey, which we're going to take a little look at, but the place that I was going to is the Isles of Scilly, and they are at the end of Cornwall. I'm looking at a picture right now. You know how you usually can't see much on Google Maps, Amy? You can actually see through the water and you can see the rocks that the island is on. I'm looking at them right now.
Wow.
And all the rocks are in the water and you can see through the water and then the island sitting on the top. So I thought that was quite interesting. We're going to put the video on because it's... And the islands, I just wanted people to, when they're looking at these pictures, that the islands are very quickly. They've got these things on there, those round things. They're Napoleonic. But the islands, they're all shaped as if they've come from a bigger shape. I mean, there was a thing about, is this Atlantis here? But when you're looking at these pictures, I noticed when you're at the Scilly Islands or Jersey and Guernsey, the water is crystal clear, and so you get water like this. But once you get to England, like Southampton, around there, everything's murky. The water's different. But slightly out, in these places, the water's crystal clear. It is in Jersey as well. I remember when we pulled up, because we were in a catamaran, and I looked down and I thought, gosh, I can see the bottom almost. You know, you wouldn't be able to do that in Southampton. Anyway, there are these islands. I've got a few pictures, because obviously, you know, we gain our information wherever we go. And they were saying that James said as well, maybe England sunk, maybe these islands sunk a bit, because it did seem that there was more of the islands showing out of the water, but there isn't now. Here they are down here, all of them. But I don't know, we don't know that either, because everybody's saying, oh, they sunk now. Everything's sunk. Oh yeah, very quick. Oh, I just want to stop. I just want to go back just a tiny bit, because I just wanted to show there. See, there is some kind of there are banks in here. And so it could have been that it sunk a little bit. I don't know. We don't know, do we, anymore? What's happened?
That's right.
But the shape... If you looked at the shapes of some of the islands, Amy, they are very shaped. They don't look natural, do they? They look like... They almost look like they've been man-made or something. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Anyway, these are 25 miles out from the bottom of England, from Land's End, which is in Cornwall. And they do look subtropical, don't they? I mean, they're gorgeous compared to...
Yeah, yes.
They look gorgeous. I want to go there now.
Right.
Oh, yes, there you go. There's a picture there. Look at that. See, this is starfort shaped on this island, and it's actually got a wall round it, and there is a starfort in one of these islands. And it's got this wall round it like starforts. And some of the shapes of some of the islands, they look a bit starfort-like.
Yeah.
But if you go to look up history, you don't find, like I was saying to Amy, you can go and look up even Doggerland. There's millions of videos and everybody's talking about those. But when you get to the Scilly Islands, there is not the same... There's not the same history. I mean, look at the shape of that one. I mean, you can't see it, I know, Amy, but it's almost like a box shape. But it's I don't know.
Right.
There's just really weird shaped islands, I think. I never looked at these islands much before. You don't need a passport from the UK to fly over there. Obviously, you can't fly over there at the moment. I mean, these people probably rely on tourism, so goodness knows what's happening to them.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I think there's at least 3, if not 4 islands that people live on. But literally, they're like a village or a small town, and then that's it. That's that island done. It's not like there's town upon town upon town in them. They're quite small, some of these islands.
Yes.
There it is. There's the Star Fort, right? And the Star Fort, what does it say? It just says the Isles of Scilly, doesn't it? It doesn't say which island it's on, but I think we come across it. There's a castle. There's lots of history here. There are like long barrows, but they're not long. They're round barrows. There's round barrows. There's Star Forts. There's Napoleonic stuff there. There's castles. There's a lot of history here. I think it's a little gem place. It's not. I mean, I suppose because the islands aren't very big and because they're so far from the mainland, there's not been too much investigation except when you go over there on your day trip.
Yes.
You know, people go on day trips. There is some old buildings that have collapsed, but they have not been rebuilt. They've not used, they've just left those, the island's not very big, so surely space is all, they have not taken that land.
Right.
And that was the Star Fort is a hotel. It's got a swimming pool in it and everything. Nice, eh?
Yes.
But there again, also you can see that there's more land in the water here under the water. But we don't know whether that was visible. And you can see like the crusty rock going down. But this water is a lot more see-through, so you can see it. When I was talking to James the other day, he said, well, Brighton used to be on a cliff. Because there was no, the sea was down there because of Doggerland. So it's all crazy. Oh, and this is very interesting. It's called the Giant's Castle Lookout. And there was some kind of castle there, but there isn't anymore. And these, I know Amy can't see them and she's listening, but these are the settlements of the houses that are derelict. But they didn't rebuild. There you go. There's the derelict village. Halagani. It's Halangy village. That's not there anymore. And then these are also on there. They're a bit methylific, They're not quite Avebury and stuff like that, but it's the same kind of thing. It's like circles of stones on there. Some older pictures there. A bit small maybe, but yeah. So that's like 2 islands put together with a port in it. I don't know, but I've got a feeling I want to go to this place. I want to go to all the islands. There's 4 islands, and some of them you can just go and sunbathe on. So I'd like to go and see some more. I'd like to go and spend a week or 2 down here investigating. Obviously, I've had quite a lot of shipwrecks and stuff in the past. There's a ship in the water. Yeah, we're just going through the pictures, Amy.
Okay.
Poor Amy, she can't see anything. She's in the blind, aren't you, Amy?
Yes.
Oh, look at this.
I've been Googling, so I can see some pictures, of them. It's very lovely.
This one I've put in, it says a back idea, Isles of Scilly history. And this ship has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sails. And 1, 2, 3, 4 little sails at the front. These are experiments or something. So, well, that was quite interesting. 7 sails. You'd hate a great big wind, wouldn't you? I'm in France in half an hour.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, these are some of. Obviously, they're not there anymore, and that ship looks quite old, and the pictures are black and white. But it's good to see black and white pictures because obviously it's good to see a bit of history. These ones probably are real. That looks like a real picture, whereas when I'm looking at them, I think that's not real most of the time.
I know.
This is the Star Fort. It's like 2 triangles turned round so that it gives the Star Fort shape. And then you've got that wall going round it. So it's got that on one of the islands. And then I saw this here. Something's here as well. Like it's got a bank there, but I didn't find much about that. But you see, there's quite a few houses on this island. Some of them are bigger than others. Some of the islands are smaller. And there's that tower over there that was near I can't say it, Napoleon time. But the islands don't look right. The shapes of them, I'm not saying that they're man-made, but I don't know, there's something not right about them.
Yeah.
I just think we've got our eyes open and we see things differently now. That's what it is.
Exactly.
How do you not know that this isn't Atlantis? These islands here.
Yeah.
It probably is though, isn't it? Because they're probably living a lot more of a lovely lifestyle than we are. There's no big roads. I can't imagine there's masses of GPS on there. You know, like this is quite rural. These are rural and they're in the sea. So basically it's a sea life for you. You're on the beaches and stuff.
Oh, I would love that. I love the beach.
I mean, that one looks like a mini version of Australia. And the way that the fields are put round, it's like in a semicircle on that island. They sort of match into the island. But these are some of the islands. What's the names? Yeah, that's... Oh, I can't think what islands they are. St Agnes. That's St Agnes. St Agnes, some of the islands there are habited. Some of them are just sort of rocks. And some of them are just small pieces of land, but not big enough that anybody lives on them.
Yes.
And that one was a pub goes on the sale for 800,000. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Oh, that's the same place with the fields going round. And then that one's St Agnes as well. We're just looking very quickly at some of the islands. I'd love to know. I wonder if that... Oh no, this one here as well is another one where you can see right the way down there, under the water. You can see what the island's sitting on, the bed rock, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, wow.
You can see it in the water and it goes right the way down there. It's really deep.
Yeah.
Can you see like the clear water and see the rock through it of the island?
Yes.
And they've got like little causeways, but I imagine that Doggerland was probably something like these. It could have been lots of islands put together. I just don't know. Anyway, so that one is actually we just hit Herm there. That's shouldn't have been in there. But anyway, now on to what this guy says. So I want to read it. So basically, this is a documentary I watched. So he's going after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. Naturally, it was relatively little affected by the empire's collapse. Right, I'm going to read them, Amy. So basically, once it collapsed, it didn't make much difference to them. Roman times, just as it would be in the medieval. So it didn't make any difference that the collapse happened of the Roman Empire. It didn't to them. Life just carried on the same there.
Yeah.
It was a very remote place in Roman times. This is what they're saying. We're just waiting for the pictures to come up. Come on, turn over. Oh yeah, and they're saying that they lived in these round houses, but I just don't know about history anymore. But if you were going to... Oh, and all the settlements are 4,000 years ago. So if that's the case, everything would be in they're round houses. They're all round, circular things with roofs on, like... what do you call it with straw on the roof? What do you call that? Thatched. They've all got thatched roofs. It says, and the picture now this picture intrigues me because Ireland is called Hibernia, Wales is called Britons, and the rest of it's called Britannia. But I already showed a map, which I've put up a couple of times, that this was Scotland. The whole of England was Welsh. And the English were stuck down this side of where Doggerland lost its land. The Brits were all on the bit where they got flooded. But I just thought that was very interesting because these are different names. And it said, like much of the west of Britain, it had been relatively little affected by Rome.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other history on there. Maybe not so much the Romans. And we don't even know if the Romans went there. How do we know?
That's right.
It's just, these people are only reading the history that they've been told.
That's right.
And then we're moving on. Yeah, we've gone that one. So, roundhouses. This has been very remote place in Roman times. Right, we've done that bit. Sorry, I got a bit lost there. We should be moving on. So, oh gosh, it's got roundhouses again. You have to see the roundhouses 3 times. Just giving you a good idea that this is what we lived in, which seems very, other countries have roundhouses, like igloo style. Anyway, collapsing soon afterwards, Zilonians were free to dictate their own destiny, basically, he says. With Rome leaving Britain and the empire collapsing. We're talking of the 5th century here. But we don't know if this is true. from forming the 55 large islands and inlets we see just the shapes of them. They've got round things on them, they've got beaches on them. They're just, I don't know, I just don't know whether it's just me. I feel something's not right with the Isle of Scilly. I don't know what it is. It's my feeling, that gut feeling one gets. Anyway, rising sea levels flooded the central plain. Now, rising sea levels, it's just very quick, going to stop the video there. He's talking about rising sea levels are flooding that plain, not a great big tsunami coming and doing it.
Right.
Because, you know, England is on a plateau, and it goes out past the Scilly Isles, and then somewhere out there's a great big drop. So you know what happens with a tsunami when it lifts up and it goes over. I can see that. But to leave the water there, what happened? I mean, we're talking of, what is it, Amy? We read 290 feet. That's a lot of water, isn't it?
It is.
And, you know, in reality, England wasn't like it was then, because it was part of Doggerland. But in there, somewhere like Brighton would have just been up on a, you know, it would have been like the Alps. Oh, they're up there. 290 feet, that's quite a long way, isn't it?
It sure is, yes.
Especially as James even mentioned in our last hangout that the real Scilly, which is, oh, I haven't got a picture of Britain right now, but where the Isle of Wight is, the real Scilly's down in that part there. The real Scilly, the old Scilly, is 2 miles out in the sea. So something's happened, and then those spit forts are in the water, which shouldn't be in the water. They should be on the edge of lands, and you could almost imagine the spit forts on little bits of land like this.
Yes.
Maybe it was just more land they were on, and I just don't know. We can't explain it. And then this one I thought was interesting for everyone, because what they're calling the Isle of Scilly, the Isle of Scilly, is Lyonese, the Lyonese. An island's called Irlanda. Britain now is called Angleterre. And then, of course, these are all called slightly different things. So one of the islands being so what they're saying was down here in the Scilly Isles, which was the Lyonese, although was it a folk story, that because of the history, they're saying that either all the islands were one, or there was one big island there, which there isn't now.
Yes.
You've seen all the islands in the pictures.
Right.
So I thought that was quite interesting. One of the islands being much larger than any of the others. Or it was one island, anyway, indicating either a single island or one of the islands being much bigger. That's just what this guy is saying.
Yes.
And then basically that was the name of the island. They were called Cylonia insula, one island. Just before the age of Arthur, designates Scilly. That's the Scilly Isles, not silly, haha. That should have a C in it. It's just how it's just how the phones picked it up as Cylonia insula. I wonder what that means, Amy. Should we have a look?
Yes.
Because I already know what one of it is. I've actually put it in here because it said what it was. Let's just have a look at it and see what that means. Because it's quite a weird name, isn't it? It's called the Scilly Isles now. Oh, I suppose it's called Cylonia. They've just taken the O-N-I-N-A off and put a Y on it. I don't know why.
Right.
Do you ever understand why they changed all these? They had to change the names, didn't they? Because we've had some other history, that's why.
Right, I agree.
So they've had to change everything, haven't they? I'm just looking up the name.
Right.
I'm just doing open research right now with Amy. So C-S-C-I-L-L-O-N-I-A, Cylonia Insula. It's a funny name, isn't it?
It is.
Right, so is that right? Oh, I haven't spelt that right. I-A, not U-A. Right, I-A. Insula. That's it. Right, here we go. Oh, means. Let's have a look. It didn't take me to the Scilly Isles. Right, means Anglo-Celtic Isles, meaning it's just about islands, and Anglo-English islands, with reference to the Scilly Isles. That's all it says.
Yeah, I see it says, under Wikipedia, it says, when I put in Cylonia insula, it just brought up all about Isles of Scilly.
Yeah.
And it says, a description written during Roman times designates Scilly, quote, Cylonia insula in the singular, indicating either a single island or an island, I lost it.
Or a big or one big island. But you don't find hundreds of videos. You know, like when you get to Doggerland, you can kind of get an idea what's happened because somebody, at least it's more than one person, they've made videos and showing you diagrams about, well, the flood came in and you've got all that on it. You can't find that on the Scilly Isles. There's just, there is a little bit of information, but not. And the guy making this video said there wasn't either, and he's right.
Exactly.
So I'm not making an attempt to find out all the history of everything. I'd love to show those buildings to Marie Wheatley because she keeps going, well, the round barrows were built by us and the long barrows were built by the elongated people. But we don't often see any round barrows, even though she talks about them. They're all long barrows around here. But that was a round barrow in this video, so I thought that was quite interesting. I'm sure Maria would love to have a couple of weeks on the Scilly Isles.
I know.
Right, putting the video on now. Right, so we've done that. Just before the age of Arthur designates Scilly Isles as Cylonia insula. So that's even different because it's a different name. Anyway, a description written during the Roman times, just before the age of Arthur. And of course that's if Arthur's real, because we don't know anything's real anymore.
That's right.
A description written during the Roman times. But there are these things there, and they're Roman. So now there's another good picture. Just going to stop that for a moment. Times when the Scilly sat higher in the water. So yeah, you can see there could have been land under there. Yeah, it could have been a bit higher. But when you look at the beaches are also set in that it's hard to imagine that there was land showing. You know, I know what they're saying, but we can't tell.
That's right.
So basically, that they could have sunk. But then James wondered whether with the Doggerland we had sunk, and that's why the water came in, because we sunk.
Yes, that's a good point.
But then if we've sunk, then we can't be that old.
Right.
Anyway, it's a place that fits many of the descriptions. Perhaps lioness is a folk word, but it's a bit strange. It's called lioness as well. But you know, there's lions on the flags, so you know, England's denoted with lions and bulldogs. Those are your, well, they were, but they're not anymore. Anyway, sorry, it's just me going through the information here. Yeah, back to the islands. So forming the 55 islands and inlets we see. Still quite a lot of islands, and there they are in the background. So people live on this one, people live on this one. I think they live on that one, and they live on that bigger island there. Or 500 AD, rising of the water. One of the islands being much larger than any of the others. And this, like I say, this kind of gets me because, you know, like I think I've gone through this, I think we've already played this video, but I don't think people will mind. Where is it? Come on, where are you? Yeah, so people are living on St Mary's, that one, and that one. Don't know if they're living on that one. And oh, there might be just a farm on that one. And he's got his own island. Right. There it is. You know, you've got Lioness, Islander, Ingletta. Yeah, Inglet. What do you call it? Ingletta. I said it earlier, and I can't think of how to say it. Ingletta. How did they get England from it? I just don't understand. But it must be because it's completely different history, and then they've tried to cover it up. Anyway, it says indicating either a single island or one of the islands being much larger. So that's what that means. Those words that you read out. Just before the age of Arthur, yeah, got back to that one again, designated Scilly as Cylonia, whatever that word was, a description written during Roman times, just before the age of Arthur. But I watched a video where Arthur was a slave to the Romans, and then he got out. A description written during Roman times. It was in the cinemas. About 10 years ago it came out. It was one of the James Bonds did it. Time when Scilly sat higher in the water. I think I'm just repeating that bit. But it's a good way. Place that fits many of the descriptions perhaps is lionesses of folk. Yeah, I've repeated this bit twice, but it doesn't matter. People can see it twice. We want people to think. But today, that's not so clear. There is a place that fits many of the descriptions. Ooh.
Huh.
And other tales. But the islands almost look like they could have been part of something else. That's what I think.
Yes, me too.
A bit like Atlantis or something.
Yes.
And then the Atlantic to find lost islands and battle sea monsters. That's what they were left to do, you know, like go out and battle the world, whatever. But they, you know, in that video he was saying that they had, you know, originally thought they had a link to Europe, not Britain. So that's crazy,
right.
Isn't it? But of course they're British now. But that happened with that island, you know, the what was it called? Diomede. It was the same thing. They thought they were Russian, but they now live in America.
Yes.
Yeah, just look at that land. Anyway, and then we go over to Jersey and Guernsey. Put that in your thing, Amy. There's the island of Alderney. There's Herm and Sark. And the island of Herm I went to from Guernsey. Went on a catamaran. There's a prison on there. There's a small... we're back to the... Scilly again. I'm going back. I am going to Jersey and Guernsey. But there's a prison and a compound there. Well, there was. And I said to Amy, it's really strange how, you know, there's lots of prisons everywhere. Like in Russia, up in that town, it had to be 18 million there. Then they sent Napoleon off to a prison in St. Helena. And then, on Herm, there's a prison. And also a whole beach, which is called Shell Beach, which is covered in shells. But we're going over to that in a minute. I'm just finishing off the Scilly Isles. We've gone back to the Scilly Isles. But I just think there's such weird shapes as if they're all star forts or part of a much bigger star. It's a star fort, the whole thing or something. I don't know. Just shapes. Don't you think the shapes of the islands are weird?
I do, yes.
You're not just agreeing with me, are you, Amy?
No, I do.
I beat her afterwards. I say, if you don't do as I tell you, I'm going to beat you. Of course I don't. So do you agree with me then? You think you see it looks weird?
Yes, they do look weird, Karen. Yes. Yes.
I mean, they've got luscious white beaches all going around the outside of them, but some of them are just the shapes of them.
Right.
And it probably has flooded a little bit because we don't know what caused that flood.
That's right.
But it's amazing that there's crystal. I mean, Gillian, do you know what Gillian reckons? I'm just going to stop the video for a moment. Gillian reckons that what creates the weather is the waters.
That's a good point. I think she's right.
And supposedly we have the tropic or something comes past the UK that's supposed to stop us freezing. I just don't know.
Yes,
so how does Sweden get up into the 40s in the summer? We heard Mikey up in Canada, North Canada, getting up into the 40s. That's nothing to do with the sea, is it? But I sort of know what she means.
I do too.
Nothing's the way you think it is. You know, like it's not the moon that is over the water. It's probably the sun. It's all the other way round. Anyway, we're still going through the islands, but I just find, I don't know, the islands, they're just weird shapes.
They are.
Don't know. I just got a feeling when I saw them. Your mind goes do 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 do. There you go. Look, it's another one. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way they are. They just remind me of star forts and things.
Yes.
And there is a star fort there, so star fort's got to here. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the beaches. Like, you would think that you might be on the Bahamas. They've got white, sandy beaches, haven't they, Amy?
They sure do, yes.
How lush is that?
Like
nice, white, sandy beaches. Anyway, this is Tresgo, one of the other islands. And obviously there's history there. I think it's an old abbey or something on that one. Just a gate left there. I mean, look at that. And you get a really good view. Let's go stop it for a second. Get a really good view of the sea. There's 1, 2, 3. It's 5 little islands in that one. There's little islands everywhere, so it wouldn't surprise me if it had been originally part of one big mass, but it's been like this for an extremely long time because of the sandy beaches which go round the whole place.
Yeah.
And again, you can just see the edge there, so I don't know. This doesn't look anything other than sea land. I don't know when they say that the water level's gone up. We're never sure, are we?
I know, we just don't know.
Yeah. Where's my pictures of Jersey and Guernsey? I might have to go and do the video a different way, the rest of the video a different way. I thought that we had all the Guernsey and Jersey pictures on here, so I'll have to go and record it a different way, Amy. Amy has to stay with me while I do it. Anyway, this is Tresco. It's got some old churches on it, old buildings on it. You could just imagine them smuggling down there, couldn't you, off the ships?
Yes.
And then that's in the... Oh, this is what I wanted to... I'm just going to stop now. I'm just going to stop this video here. Basically, this is the shoreline. And then through the water, you can see the rock that it's sitting on. So that's the rock that island is sitting on. I think I'll zoom out in a second so you can see the picture. Well, I thought that was quite interesting, Amy.
I know. Yes, Karen, it is.
Can you see some of the sort of big clumps of rock in the water? There you go. Look at that. That's, you know, you can see it all underneath. And you know what? When you're looking at water, things can be a lot further down than they appear to be. We went to this place where in Kefalonia it was, so it was a Greek island, and basically in the 50s, after an earthquake, the top of the cave had collapsed. But basically, when we were in the boat, it's all full of water now, this guy said, basically, what these look like these rocks that you could actually put your hands on them and take them out of the water. They could be like a block of flats depth away from you, but they look like you could touch them. So you can't tell quite how that lies, because it looks like you can touch it, but they could be a lot deeper in the water. That's my point on that one.
Yes, that's right.
If you get what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, we've got that. But yeah, there's round circle things on there. There's just things on there that don't add up. Like there's been a lot more civilization there than is now. But because it's all the way over there, Amy, I don't think that they will look into it because it's so far away.
That's right.
From the mainland. And I mean, they've got a little thing of a bar of a mile. They're only probably about 3 or 4 miles. All those islands, the 50-odd islands, end up being in about 4 miles of land. And those were the long barrows or the round barrows. And if anybody wants to read, because what it's going to say is, I'm just going to read this tiny bit. I'm not reading the whole thing, Amy, but it says the Isles of Scilly, the westernmost of the granite masses of southwest England, contains a remarkable abundance and variety of archaeological remains from over 4,000 years of human activity. It's always got to be 4,000 years. The remote physical setting of the islands, over 40 kilometres beyond the mainland, is the approach to the English Channel, has lent a distinctive character to these remains, producing many unusual features important for our borders. And it just goes on and on and on. So it's not really, it's just talking, but anyway, yeah, it's quite interesting. I'd like to go there. Like I said, I think I'd like to go there.
Oh, I know, me too. I was just thinking about it, and I don't know if you saw that movie, The Others, with Nicole Kidman. And it takes place when the island of Jersey off the British coast. When we were just talking, I was just picturing that. It came into my mind, and I remember it was on this island, and it was very like isolated looking, and so I googled it just now, and it did take place on the island of Jersey off the British coast.
Well, it's a real story, is it, Amy?
No, it's not a real story, but it's if anybody likes supernatural type things, I thought it was pretty good. If you like that kind of thing, it's got a nice spin to it. But anyway, but then I looked where it was filmed, and it said most of the movie was filmed in Spain. But even though it's supposed to take place on this island, the island of Jersey, is actually filmed in Spain.
Ridiculous, hey? I'm just going to move. I'm just going. 1 second, Amy. Now, those islands were at the bottom of England by Devon and Cornwall. These ones, if you went from where the Isle of Wight is and just carried on straight down almost, well, sort of down there, you'd come to these islands. But these islands, they're different, aren't they, Amy? I asked you to look them up. They're different, totally different islands, aren't they? These are rocks, and they're built on, and the islands come off the rocks, whereas that other island, just, I'm not saying they're not rocks, but they're just much lower in the ground.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, this is on the Isle of Herm. Now, when you get to Jersey and Guernsey, there's Stark, Herm, and there's another couple of islands. And this was the place which was where the prison was. Which is crazy, isn't it? Just another prison. Just can't wait to imprison us.
I know.
All basically we've been is in prison for the last God knows how long.
Oh, I know.
There's a little bit it is awful, Amy. There's a little bit of information there if you want to stop this video and read it. It'll tell you a little bit more information there. And then, yeah, there's these things on there. These things are credible. They're like dome things. Backpacking in... Oh, that was a holiday, but these things are dome-shaped. They look like boobs with nipples stuck in the ground, sticking up. So I don't quite know. And they're on the island of Herm. So I've been to the island of Herm. We went there to the Shell Beach. That was part of the trip. It was me and Ellie's dad that did that one without children. It was okay that. But they have lots of sandy beaches, and they also have very clear water there. I've already explained that, but we don't.
Right.
And then, yeah, these are, let me have a look, the crazy island of Sark. Yeah, these are next to Jersey and Guernsey, another set of islands the Queen owns.
Yes.
But these border France, so how do we get... It's really weird how that happens, isn't it, with all these islands? They sit in someone else's waters, but they're owned by another country. They must do that on... Do you think they do that on purpose?
Yes, it seems that way. Yeah.
So basically, you've got Guernsey, Jersey. There's Stark and Herm. That's where that prison was, and the Shell Beach. Then you've got Alderney. People live on there. People live on there, and people live on here. They live on these two, but I don't know if they live on that one. They're just rocks, those ones. Anyway, here's the islands. We've got Jersey, Guernsey. Jersey, Guernsey, Alderney, Sark, and Herm. Don't think people live here. People live on here. They don't live on the Isle of Herm, but they live on Sark, Guernsey, Alderney, and Jersey. This is so close to France. I was just saying to Amy that it's really strange how a lot of these islands end up being right next to another country.
That's right.
It's just so weird. So it's a bit like, oh, well, you own the mainland. Oh, but they own the islands. So right in view of you are these islands owned by other people.
Yes, it's so weird. Yes, it
is weird. You know, that's not the only place, is it? You know, we were doing that the other day with Diomede.
That's right.
Anyway, so this is a part of Herm, but looking a bit Starfort-like. But a bit of it is missing, obviously, as it always is. But again, is it the rising of the seas? Has some catastrophe happened and caused all this? I just don't know anymore. Was it always like this and they're lying? I reckon that Herm was a star fort.
Yes, probably so.
Yeah. Anyway, more pictures of Jersey and Guernsey, but it's further out of the water. On not every bit, but a lot of it. They're on rocks. Whereas Jersey and Guernsey aren't. Sorry, the Isles of Scilly aren't.
Right, yeah.
And it's got a little shell church. And there seem to be a lot of them happening. You know, that's what's in the bottom of Merlin's Mound, is a shell place. There's a shell here. This isn't the only shell church. So it's really crazy. In this time, they wanted to make little places made out of shells.
Yes, that's right.
That's the Isle of Sark, and you can see, even on that one, there must be a bridge across there. Even on this one, there's obviously a little village there, and there's a couple of villages on this island, but you can see that it's field upon field upon field, but it's on rocks. So these rocks are quite high. So I was saying to Amy, you know, it would take a bit more flooding for the water to come over, whereas it would come straight over in the Scilly Isles. And then, oh yes, there you go. This is, what island's this? There you go, Alderney. Now, Alderney, yeah, it's lived on. It's got a star fort on it.
Well,
If you look up the island of Alderney, it's got a star fort on it.
what's it called? Island of...
It's Alderney, Alderney.
Yes. Oh, thank you, yes.
And then I've got a map here of, that's Guernsey, and there's a star fort there.
Yeah.
And it looks a bit star fort all around here as well. So the island of Guernsey was one great big star fort.
Yes.
The whole thing.
Yes.
It's an old picture that I've put up. So that's crazy in itself, with a star fort here, star fort walls here, star fort, Fort George that is, but that's on the other side of the island to the star fort. They haven't told us that though, have they, Amy? You have to come across it in an old map.
Right, that's right.
And then, yeah, and then on the island of Alderney, which hardly anybody's ever going to go to, there's a big castle. Takes up most of that island, the castle.
Well...
And again, it's on rocks, so you can see it's quite high up. It's not like the islands of the Scilly Isles. The Scilly Isles. Yeah. Anyway, and then just more pictures there of... they've got one of those there, because that's, I think that's there. It's just Napoleonic times and before. There's just quite a lot of history on these places. I wish I'd known what I'd known now. I've been looking for different things when I went over there.
I know, that's right.
And so when I was talking to you, Chelsea is, I think that's the Chelsea Bill there. And the original Chelsea's 2 miles out in the sea.
Oh, well.
There's Jersey and Guernsey, and it would make, if there was no water there, what would that mean for the land, these islands?
I know.
Still got lovely seas on it though.
Yes.
You could pretend that you're in the middle of you know, like we go down to the Mediterranean to go on our holidays. You would think that you were there on that.
Right.
Yeah. There's a causeway going across that one. That's Jersey. Yeah. So it's been very interesting going through this. I think, oh, I've just lost the pictures, Amy. This one's quite good. Channel Islands by bike, but basically there's a fortress there, you know, castle on that island. I told you that.
Yes.
So that's that, and then I've got more writing. So naturally it's relatively little. Oh, I've done that one. Hang on a second. Yeah, on this island, it just reminds me of a star fort. So obviously the star fort's out here in the water, but you know, I've just got a few more pictures to go through. It's hard to know anything for sure anymore, isn't it?
It sure is. That's
And the things you believed in aren't real, so...
I
Oh yeah, we've done this bit. There's that nice map of... I just think that's a really nice old map showing that. The Star Fort. There's the castle. We've done these ones. We're just going through. There's that. Or maybe we got to the end then. That was it. That was the end. That's why. Is it the end?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh no, we're still going. Oh right, we're back on those now. Yeah, so we're back on those, which I've already done those. So what do you make of what I've said, Amy?
Oh, it's just, I mean, we just don't know so much about our geography and our history. It's all a mystery because
With the history.
Yeah, and like you said, like you can't even tell. Some of the islands look like they might have even been man-made, or they look like star forts. And then you've got the ones that's in rocks, and ones that the Scilly Islands that are so more smooth or whatever. And I don't know. It's just everywhere we go is so fascinating. And like you said, if you had gone, when you went there, where was it that you went to?
Well, I've never been to the Scilly Isles, but I've been to Jersey and the Isle of Herm. I've been there.
Yeah, like I know, just ever since we woke up to a lot of things, it's like you see things in a different light, and like you would wish you could look at things differently if you could go back there.
Yeah, I would. I'd be going, look at that star fort! Look at that wood! Look at that stone! Look at this! Look at that! I'd be so different nowadays.
Exactly.
But you imagine, when you think about it, the Isle of Wight is a few miles off the British coast. Does not look anything like these islands. Doesn't have. Well, I suppose it does have sandy beaches, but it doesn't look like these.
Right. And I mean, here in America, if you go to the beach along the Atlantic coastline, a lot of times the water is pretty murky. And but yet I know my daughter, she's been to like Mexico or Florida, and the water will be a lot clearer. Anytime it's around an island type setting, it's much clearer than when you
It
go
doesn't
to
look like that around the Isle of Wight.
Right, around the Isle of Wight, yeah.
I mean, they say it's quite a treacherous sea, but there are only fishing lanes there, because I don't think it's not. I know they said 290 feet with rolling hills, but I don't think it's as tall as that.
Right. And we go to New Jersey for holiday, and it's called, everybody refers to it as the Jersey Shore, and that's where we go. And it's kind of ironic, we all share the same names, whether you're in England or America. And like I say, the waters are quite murky. It's fun to go into the ocean, but it's not nice and pretty and clear.
No, not like it is at Jersey, Guernsey and the Scilly Isles.
Right.
But no, I just wanted to draw this to people's attention. There's always more that you don't know.
That's right. There's always more that we don't know than we do.
And I forgot about these islands, and I don't even know what these are. Like some of the fields, it just looks like maybe they're the hedges. They stick out quite a lot, but yeah, we're just looking at this map, Amy. You're going to read a bit out in a minute, which explains that basically all of this was one island, and obviously these were the higher points, but this is St Mary's. This was all one island, and you can kind of see with the lighter coloured sand bit in there that it obviously was. This lot was obviously connected, and obviously down to here was. So it was one bigger island. Would have made it about 3 or 4 miles big, whereas these islands, well, maybe 10 miles big actually. These islands are not that big. It's basically like villages on water, it is. But anyway, Amy, do you want to read the? Oh, and also we're going to show pictures more of the star fort, which they talk a bit more about, but they don't really call it a star fort, do they? They call it a fort, but they don't call it a star fort. But so they're a little bit more sort of open about it. But because it's so covered in the first place, because there's so much history that's not included, it's not in another way. And if you understand what I mean, I don't know if I explained that very well, but hopefully everybody understands that. You know what I mean, don't you, Amy?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah.
Amy has to say that, otherwise when videos are stopped, I'm going to smack her bottom. But anyway, no, I'm not.
No, it's seems like once you can find the information, they might be a little more open with it, I think is what you were saying.
They're a little bit more, what the information they're giving you, even if they're lying, they're sort of a bit more open about it. They have this whole history, but they do explain the forts are there. They do give you a time of the 1600s, don't they? So that's good.
They do.
Anyway,
Yes.
Amy. But so basically, yeah, you can almost see. I mean, was this Atlantis? Anyway, carry on, Amy.
Well, I had this article from English Heritage that I was reading from, and it was talking about the Isles of Scilly.
Yeah, of Scilly. Sicily.
Yes.
It might be Sicily. The Isles of Sicily. Scilly.
I think it's
Scilly.
yes,
Sicily. I don't know now. When we say Sicily, that sounds Italian, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's Italy.
Yeah. Oh, very quick. That was the Star Fort, by the way. There's 2 Star Forts on here. There's a Star Fort in a Star Fort, and then there's this wall around everything. And I did say on the other video, because of course me and Amy have had to do this video twice, that maybe the Great Wall of China was a part of a Star Fort. But basically, James told me that wall was to keep everybody else. It was to keep them away from the other side, so they were keeping them out.
Yes.
So it's a bit hard to, when you hear that, you think, oh, really? But China looked like a quarter of the size that it is now.
Well, yes.
Anyway, sorry, do read on, Amy.
Well, it says, there are now 5 inhabited islands in the Isles of Scilly, as well as dozens of smaller islands separated by shallow sea. In the Bronze Age, about 2500 BC to 800 BC, however, the landscape was very different because the sea level was slightly lower. There was probably one main island.
They only said slightly lower, though, didn't they, Amy?
Yeah, slightly lower.
Mm.
And it says there was probably one main island with the hill of St. Mary's in the south and a ridge of high ground, which is modern Friar, Tresco, and St. Martin's in the north. Further west lay the separate islands of St. Agnes and the Western Rocks, all of which were much larger in the Bronze Age than today. St. Mary's, the largest of the islands, has the best range of surviving prehistoric sites. The distinctive Bronze Age burial chambers, known as entrance graves, with their great stone and earth mounds, are particularly impressive. On the northeast side of the island lie the 2 Inniskin entrance graves, known as Upper and Lower Inniskin. The upper mound is particularly well preserved and has striking views across the shallow sea to St. Martin's, a view which earlier in prehistory would have been over a fertile valley. The Bronze Age cemetery of Porthelic Down on the southeast side of St. Mary's has 6 grave mounds. The largest of them is the 12-meter diameter Porthelic Down burial chamber. And then they give you a little map, and they say it was taken by the International Space Station. And it says that the satellite view taken from the International Space Station shows the shallow seas around the islands, many of which once probably formed one much larger landmass. And then they have another little map that says it shows the location of English heritage sites on the islands. And then it just says that about as far as the star forts, it was saying that I'll have to find that part now. Oh, it said by the 16th century, the Isles of Scilly were a weak spot in England's defenses. If captured, they would have made an ideal base for England's enemies, whether France, Spain, or privateers, effectively pirates who were licensed to carry out private raids on behalf of their governments. In 1547, Lord Admiral Thomas Seymour visited the islands, and about a year later, work began on fortifying the islands, starting with Tresco. And it talks about some of the different forts that they made, like King Charles Castle.
Yeah, that's
on the
this one.
other
I'm just going to
side
go
of
back because I'll
Tresco.
just show that to people. That is one here. That's King Charles's castle.
Yeah, it was built in the early 1550s.
Yeah.
And it said it was named somewhat confusingly for its occupation by royalist forces a century later during the English Civil Wars. And then it says there was a fort known as Harry's Walls, and that lies on the west side of St. Mary's. This artillery battery, which was started in 1551, was never finished, but it was planned as a square with sharply angled bastions at each corner. Now, as they're funding the main harbor when it said that it pressed the garrisons beside Hugh, the main settlement when St. Mary's fortification began in the 1590s, when a Spanish invasion was feared, and completed with a ditch and bank surrounding the headland during the English Civil Wars, which were 1642 to 1651, when about 1,000 royalist troops held the islands for the king. But there was no fighting here until the very end of the war in 1651. And then in the first half of the 18th century, the defenses were upgraded. The masonry curtain wall was extended to surround almost the whole of the headland, and numerous gun batteries were added. Today, the garrison walls are in the care of English Heritage, and visitors can walk around most of their length. The historic castle and the garrison, which is now a privately owned hotel, is a striking star-shaped fortress built in 1593. And then on Tresco, the appropriately named Cromwell's Castle is a stone gun tower built by parliamentarian forces after they captured the islands from the royalists in 1651. So, and then it just says that in this article, if you want to know more information, that there's different audio guides that you could download to listen all about the Isles of Scilly and things like that. So basically, that's what that article was telling us about.
Thank you so much for reading that, Amy. We've got a couple more minutes left because me and Amy, well, we just did a copy and it went Anyway, do you think, Amy, when we look at that island there with the wall round, they made that island?
It kind of seems like it, or else.
Or it could have been there was shingle there and they've added to it and made it more for this structure with the wall round it. And there's two gun placements on there. There's one here and there's obviously one up here. That they're not. The guns aren't there anymore, but that's where the guns were. Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe they had the island and they just really, fortified it.
In the 1600s when we only had horses. And they're on an island. They're on an island. So how do they do it?
I don't know. That's the mystery part of it.
Never going to know that one, are we? But, yeah. I don't think sailing was such a problem for these people. And we don't even know what boats were. Because, some people say that when they were in dock, they were firing up with electricity.
Yes, that's right.
So we'll never know what they were exactly.
No. We just don't know.
That was just to show you that that's a Second World War part of a bunker thing there. But again, there's that star fort all over it. It's all over the island. It would make sense then. Because it's all over us as well.
Yes.
Quite amazing. There's the guns there on the left. There's the guns. Obviously they're not there anymore, but 2 big gun silos, which means that there'll be rooms underneath. Because there's always rooms underneath. Yeah, we're just waiting for this bit of video to click over. Thank you so much for that, Amy, for reading that out. So what's your thoughts of it then, Amy?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think, I just don't know how it's all related to, like, Tartaria or something like that. It's just incredible. It's fascinating. It seems like all there ever was were wars, and happened to have fortresses and wars.
And prisons.
Every time I hear about any of what we study, it's like always they had to have fortresses and star forts and all.
Well, we don't know whether
this,
star forts are for the bad or the good, do we really?
That's true. We don't. We don't know.
And I mean, lots of people think those things were resonating because of the shape of them and the fact they were so, you know, or they're all in water.
Right. Yeah, it's quite a mystery in my opinion. History is a mystery for me anymore.
It is. Anyway, we've got 1.5 more minutes, Amy. What do you reckon about... I mean, it's a little bit hard to go through all of the history because there is quite a lot on this island. But there's no, you know, like if I went to the computer, like most places have some document on it. There's no document, so you can't, you know, look. I'll look that bit up. Oh, I found it there. You just got to go through people's videos for it.
Yes. I mean, it's just so much, and you know, that's just one. We're just talking about islands right now, but then you think about all of Europe and America and all the other countries, and just all these wars and everything, and it's just pretty incredible. And then we don't even know about our geography. And why it's changed or how it changed. It's like everything I thought I knew, the older I get and the more I study, the less I know, the less I realize I knew.
Yeah, we can all spurt out that book, but once you do your own research, you know, well, I just know, I don't know the answers to everything, but I just know, like, there's something wrong with those islands. And I don't trust their history, and it's quite incredible. These little islands have so much history, but because the sea rose a little bit, we've lost 3/4 of the island, and now you've got islands. I don't get all that.
I know, it doesn't add up.
No, well, we finished now, Amy, so we're just going to finish with the hangout because we say goodbye on there. So I'm just going to say thanks, Amy, and we're going over to the other video. Go on, Amy.
Okay, Karen, thank you.
Oh no, darling, it's thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Karen.
Yeah. Amy?
I know.
Thank you so much for your help.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.